올려서 단단 변다 진짜 심지어 탐제가 또 톱잘라나 맞지바 산에 고말 뭐지 진내자 토바자 대체도 아니면 장조세만 남자는 수시도 나서 나와래 신고를 퇴고를 투지 쇼만 놓아주거든 아니 가서 봐봐 돼 딱간자 가서 딱간자 저 what's 준주고兄弟 something what in the shit.
We begin as normal by setting our motivation to attain the peerless state of enlightenment with the intention to do everything we possibly can to reach that state. And we know that in order to do so, we need to perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. And those trainings in turn, then we must have a good understanding of what they are about. And we must gain this through learning from an unmistaken presentation. And we can be sure that this morning in coming to listen to a talk from the Bodhisattva's way of life by the great master Shantideva, that we have such a text. Then as usual, we begin by setting up our visualization prior to the teaching. In the space in front, the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha, who is skillful in means and greatly compassionate. And in the space all around us, all kind mother sentient beings.
And only onko and Chilama Cheso the Nevale and Chicasoda Tanda de Casoda and the Chigo then because of Museum we can take it. What in the compassion?
And then the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha displays the triple syllable Om Hung. And from the hung at the heart, light rays emanate going out into the pure realms, inviting all of the wisdom beings and the empowering deities to come. The wisdom beings come and dissolve into the main figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar empowerment, and then some of which overflows at the crown, from which arises spontaneously the figure of Akshobhya.
What did the compassion? What did it wonder? That Ranga Tagoto, Magasam Jeta, you have some such and some gel and maybe that Simjet the Datanga, Tunegi, reduce to Nashima Mala, and Namang Mination, Namju, you can share. And it and it to Matu to be on the Kusutu and then Shibanga and the town at the Chicken, Tavana. What to get there? But Tungri, years of the Ra and the same gel and maybe Nietzsche. And Tomashaja to be a cushion to get you the Teva, and it is a simple that to make you the chair that Chimor Teva Shoche. And it Teva Tagi and what that Teva the Teva Juda Cheva and a Chimor Teva Juche Teva Shoche, Teva Tagi Teta Chenova, Toma to be on the Chingal Sus, and the name by Zataka Judge Tagi Chigas and Chega to the Chemo to a separate. Then they simply Tamja simply chicken. Tewa Tanja Tunga Tanja Chetu Yoma. Then they said the Chiban Yubati and Tula said to me, and Tomasha to Konatu, simply the two Lamla Omas of a sign. They were the Konatu, Konki Kobai Tobina, and the Jiggy Rene, and it that come the Meban Nasoba, and it take better. Can you by Yaza and Jigger Simjam Castle Kiji Renata, member to watch with the new to and I knew and combat to get what did they to be checked out or to be some of what didn't come.
And so all of the sentient beings all around us, of course, all the occupants of the 6 realms of existence, but in this case, they even though they're undergoing the various sufferings relative to those realms, they are doing so with a human cognizance. And so with that in mind, they are also looking at the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha visualized in front and recalling the qualities of enlightened beings. They develop a real strong sense of faith, that is the faith, pure faith, faith of conviction and manifest faith. We in turn are looking towards all sentient beings with that mind of compassion, and equally so in our appreciation of the great qualities of enlightenment, we are looking towards the figure of the Buddha with this faith as well. And we think how wonderful it would be if we really could free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. May it be the case. I will make sure that it is the case. And then we pray to the Buddha, please bless me to be able to really fulfill this aspiration, and that we realize that, you know, to be able to do so, we need to be in a position of omniscience, in a way, to know exactly what it is that needs to be done. But at the moment, we can't even free one sentient being. And when we look to, you know, the state that is able to do so, it is the state of a Buddha, the state of enlightenment. And that here they have completed all the trainings of fulfilling every good quality and of eradicating every negativity. They have this capacity to understand the dispositions of all sentient beings, the various personalities, the karmic implications, and so on. And so their actions are precise and infallible. And so that is the state I really must attain. I see that now. There isn't really a choice in the matter. So may I quickly be able to attain this state of enlightenment as soon as possible.
What the commission and says what that when cousin Kawaii do. Some just so good,
some just so good, right. The wogi chikti, hansi dedre, Geshe chintapla.
Yeah. What that cousin got some surrender that, what the nation of Sumba, Sing Cho to Juba, Langabo, what the red temple secretary, Simje to the two again, Lamla Labu Yore, and it did Tabu was Sanjay for a tap and just what did she do that? Simje Tanda Sanjay Kuma Toba Chigur there, Rani Sanjay Kuma Toba Chigur, that Toba Jig. Toba Jay did that Tobri. Toba did top that did Tommy Kaltina Simjing to be in Sata Kajana. The day is also my Shin Kabachi, that is in Kabachi Chawa, so my Shin Chod to Juba, that Shin Kabachi Shin Chod to Juba, Nabalo Sumsa, Janju, Samala, Jungse Samya, Mevan meeting with Jumse, Shin Kabachi, the Mevan meeting with Jumse, and a devil comedy with Jumse, and then a child says a just to told us what did the ship. What did the subject soon connect?
So we had paused last week at the just prior to well, we had to cover the 34th verse, but just going back there, we have the third of these recent set of outlines that this supreme basis is worthy of praise. So it's referring to the one who has the mind of enlightenment, of course, in that is the means for the attainment of enlightenment. It has as its object all sentient beings, so it thereby endows the owner of that mind with a special kind of potency. And so then that in turn, that outline has 3 subheadings, And so it's saying if we even slightly disparage a bodhisattva, that is incorrect, and the reasoning behind that. And secondly, if we have faith in such a being, how that is correct, and the reasoning behind that. And then why such a being is worthy of prostration and refuge, for going to refuge. And so the first of these deals with the first point. Disparaging slightly a bodhisattva is a very dangerous thing to do.
그래 다 전주 세마는 중세 zamme바 이나야 미리베 중세다 미리베 중세 될다 가서 미리베 중세 당부들라 왔다 가자 가시 때지 계산 진다라 게대 녀석 개바 제바 녀석 개베 장시 개바네 내가 주셔 투베 송세.
And so the verse covering that is verse number 34. It says, the Buddha has said that whoever bears an evil thought against a benefactor such as that bodhisattva will remain in hell for as many eons as there were evil thoughts.
다 계세 단위 전부게 아니 나랑도 탐제라 아니 다 간제 나랑도 세월래 자주 돈주게 치아도 아니 차 여바서 맞아 된데게 세월데 남주다 때문에 세월도 문에 전에 세월디 아니 편도 제시 나랑도 섬도 세월디 몽배 지나는 편도 선부할 이내 몽배 온게 아니 동행이 줄을 쳐주도 동행이 가서 몽배 온게 동행이 줄을 쳐네 다 제가 요럴 때 이나 소소 팬배 주가리 임메다 딱 일 친사반에 실전 소소 팬배 주다 네배 주대 먼저 셰럽 그 남주고 돈에 아니 야와 체마도 받잖아 아니 뭔가 말이 배 온다 란체제 온게 아니 동행이 유튜브 되게 차되기도 와다 차되기도 와 어디 다 차되기도 와다 게세 다니 전부 다 되네 많이 뭐 이거 내수 캠배 돈에 뭐 이거 내수 캠배 돈에 다 간자지 와서데 캠바다 다가니 지금 뭐 이거 내수 킹킹 상계 남게 아니 가서 람라랍네 아니 그 마티바 마녀와 있잖아 다 지금 나라들 펴버 주변에서 찾기도 와 근데 이마이사 샘제 강시스 샘제 수이마이네 펜데 타다 집어 지금 다 소소라 펴바다 대와 탐제 내가 삼게 맞다 내가 다 타두게 된 탄제 펴바 지금 Geshe Chendalas and Geshe Chendalasata, the day Pemba chicken and Chibeta Botella, Kate Geshe, Yasin Kebaina, and a Keba Cheva Tiba, but Caswata, Lloyd Mashua Joris. Was a Tiba as a Misema in the Takan Tiba Shibuja Top Chebu Yorista. Yasin Keji Keba and Keji Desam Tanda never Keba, Yawa Nebo, and again, Yogu Yoris. 그래서 시 투바상계 좀 되는 소소다 개발 내봤다 안 당한지 고도 레제가 조당 돈에 아니 제가 주도도 영화 주도 다들 먹고 줘 봐. 남는 게 저거 그냥送给내 대 개발 받는데 아니 제가 주도다 제가 주도게 다야 뒤 제가 무튼에 된게 야 레니 바사테 그 검시용한테 아니 그때 되네 녀석은 타와 있네 안 당되게 야 되게 그래서 다 가자 지금 아니 지금 소트를 강해 없었는데 개도에 어다도 다 되네 연습에 로이도 마셔 가지고 그래서 사이 좀 되게 소리스 거 같은 ချက်
'So here is describing such a being who has the temporary and ultimate benefit and happiness of all sentient beings as their motivation, and that it's the way that we have to be so careful in the way we react or respond to these beings, and that we can think that we have a certain amount of love from our own point of view, but and we have a limited capacity for benefit and happiness to bring to others. But it often is the case our love is compromised because of the mixture with attachment and so on, and it's confusion around what is the right thing to do in all situations, and that here it's the kind of like may have this kind of like a wishful thinking in our love to try think we're doing the right thing, but in fact we may only be creating the causes of suffering. And this is through the lack of wisdom really to make that distinction between what is definitively good and beneficial. And so we kind of have to really be aware of that from our own point of view. Now, from the point of view of a bodhisattva, they are the one who does see the actuality of all the situation, of everything in the situation. Why is that? Because they are fully committed to training on the path. They understand the kind of the vastness of the object, all sentient beings that they are working towards, and the goal itself being so vast as well, that from their point of view, benefit is the only choice that one can make, and therefore they're interested in not only the temporary benefit to another, but also implicit in their actions is the ultimate benefit for all sentient beings, the permanent benefit of all sentient beings. And so it's saying when you interact with such a being, that even if you have a negative thought with regard to them, that can be something, such an unbearable negativity, say, such that for every moment of that mind, then you are likely to spend 1 eon in the hell realms. And so it's kind of carries with it a tremendous potency. So it has the ripening result. It's certain to be in the hell realms. The environmental result, which of course is surrounding with pain and those guardians of the hell realms and fear and so on. But also that it has that tendency to create a habit where the result is in accordance and harmony with the cause, with the action, and that so it's sort of like in a way bad in so many different ways. So we have to be extremely careful with regard to how we respond or how we react. I'm sorry, it's just that this is something that is stated by the Buddha himself. Go on there.
But the Kebe about the neck, what are the million tea? And it did Naming Tibucha. That in a Java Judula, Taka the Java Judula, Takaja, Rotakaja, the net tower in it, Mutuni, and the Negi Caso that the Java Jutungi, less I Takaja, and it Tahani Noa Jutuncha, Noa Jutungi. And it because of the Tasso Katina Maki, but the Kangayo, the Yogurata, Noa Jutungi, what did it check? And the negative because of that, Dante, and it because of the Nelami beta, so Kanga Yushido, Netty on the social Kanga was checked here. What did they want to what the Tamaja Kaja to get the Kangas, some town, and just because of some of which Matanata, bed because of that, Yangachi was to get it to make a Milua and to make water can get to Basagation. Cousin around to sing your mama. Machima Yensa, and it Takaja. Ngaranzu some nestle deva in Baza. Ngaranzu some Hagoya Nesse and Nivale deva in Sata, Sunday Lumatana, or the Shema to Eswada, the Lula telling Yakuishwa. And the name was water. What did it say? Sunday Lula, what did the soon your rest? That the name is that Karchi would have said, I was a judge of Basuna Hakumari, Hamodu, and a Sula in Bayina, and a Chicasura, Takaja, Niasen Maki. Pember somebody and Gubachi. What did the Chena Sula in Bayina? Takajan, yes, Janju some of Sula in the Lane of Basari water. And Janju some in the best hour of that, they would be cheap, she would know good one. That the get the shape at one, and it 소소 로라 마보바 용식에 가서 레기 오기 아니 쇠바 고미에 잡아든 인제 고미에 아니 나가는 시게 강가로 구바다 지구지에 로아 아니 가서는 다 지가서데 샘제 탐제기도 산제 고바 두비 소소 나다 지금 뒷바지 연구열에 로지 연구열에 근데 인바서 산제 고바 두 샘제 수리 상황이 아니 대단한 오 산제 고바 샘제 탐제 산제 고바 두비 있을 딱 가사 대다 탐제라 되는 게 두비 있을 요래 섬서 아니 이게 로유의 샤바체는 구바다 지구지에 어떤데 제가 이나 아니 그게 자주 선바 집안에 배유 빠도 매번 사기래 그게 대대 유의 자주 선바 멤버 이내야 소설 배유 사기래 로 배유 사기래 나한테 이마인자 소설 캡사면도 종초들아 이거 뭐 안 되게 시베 돈에 아니 땅가 만나와 제디 개체 버려도 좋아 자주 선바 이선가 자주 선바 인선 나바텐데 그 연구 요 말이야 가서 나라 쪽에 누가들 당기 요 말이야 당기 말도 배나 산제 무슨 제가 있네 산제 제투 말이야 아니 근데 제마도 또 아니 제투 뭐도 다 나가는 새 자주 선바이네 무슨 자주 선바 만나외게 내가 요래 가서는 나라 쪽에 그래서 나라 쪽에 시바디 아니 지금 탐해의 시바 인사 하고의 누가들 빼면서 누가 충족해 다 누가든 강가 전도고 도와 약에 졸라 뭐 트에 빼면서 공부를 해 안 이게 시베 톤네 당 자체지 어느 삽삽지 계신 버려도
And so, yes, that's just to consider the whole range of negative results that may result from disparaging a bodhisattva, not only mentioning the ripened result in the hell realms itself, the environmental result of being surrounded in that way by objects of suffering and so on, and then but also the result in harmony with the action cause. In other words, that the action of engaging and disparaging like this, the easiness with which it comes about, will be kind of like adding to the habit of being critical and disparaging in an unreasonable way, and so that's going to increase. And then there's the experiential cause as well, the result that is in kind of harmony with the experiential cause, and that means that we will be inclined to find ourselves in the situation where the situation itself will give rise to disparaging attitudes, negative minds, and so on. And so there's this whole range of kind of really, really unwanted negative results from being overcritical and disparaging in this way. And that so we should be very, very careful to not allow this to happen, and that we are at great risk in the way we react in this way, because we simply are in such a limited kind of area of understanding with the minds that we have so underdeveloped that we don't know who is and who is not a bodhisattva. It's very, very clear, and that's why it says in this verse, this is stated by the Buddha. The Buddha has said, so this is something that we have to rely on, as as it is based on scripture, and that's kind of like knowledge about where everybody is in terms of their spiritual development is kind of hidden to us due to our own ignorance. And so it's very important then, because we don't know, that we should make the logical conclusion to always proceed with respect and with a mind to a benefit. And that it's kind of like saying that in any case, a negative mind, a disparaging mind, is a negativity anyway, with regard to whoever it's directed at. And so we should avoid that choice of mind and choose to always be beneficial and respectful regardless. And so it's very important that, because if we are negative towards a bodhisattva, we can see how drastic and severe the negativity is. And that, also if we are beneficial towards somebody who happens to be a bodhisattva, the benefits even outweigh the negativities. They're just amazing benefits to be had for that. And so it's kind of like, even towards a normal person, there's such benefit to be had in taking the right attitude towards them. And so we can assume that everybody has the capacity, if not the reality, of being a bodhisattva. And therefore, always our attitude should be one of benefit and respect. And so it's something that we need, isn't it? We need to develop this attitude in any case. And so we need to make the unmistaken choice here. The logic is clear, that because of our limited understanding, we don't know where our interlocutors are coming from. And so we don't have the capacity to definitively understand where they're coming from. And so we can't say. Therefore, the safest option here is to always proceed with respect and with a mind to benefit.
But was Papa Tome Lujushua, Papa Tome, the Takaja Casoda, Papa Tome, and it Casore, and Tati Tewachim, but the day of the Takala Nubjem. And my Nubde, and it bad teacher, and it Tebas, yes, Tewachim, Tebas, that Jizun Jamakumbu to me. Jamakumbu, and it Tabu Losum to Tenet, my Tar, my Tunja, Tenet Losum to Tenel Kanja, Tenet, and Lochungi Padu to me. And the thunder and the Jamba share must sit to Jamba share must sit to the bad Takajota, that Tapsi Mindu, that Pecha Jamba to some arrest and bad some China Mape on it, and Kimamu, and a bear Kondo Savage. And it met Tamja, and because of put up tickets, Martin English. Caso de Chicaso de Chicaso de Kibu, Chicaso de Tap, and Jetty bear that met. Book teacher, and a bad Shuji Casona Takanja, and a bad Casona. What are the legend season? And the bad Kimotilla missing Ninja Tunchen. And it did to say what you tap tapsi condition. Pumal, it has Lene, Yutan and Bushy Drosade. The Malenane, that Kishi Drosade. And bad Ninja Kitchen, and a Korangi shine on a Taputi Shai, Kumbachachan, and my. Shot Nalo put you and put it La Bella Yashi to return and take a pa, it is Leon do. It is that type of delicious and that Jet done it let or cover the bad Castle that's all what to your mata. And the Jimmy how you get a Takan Book chicken and the Jam out on it and patch on the junction to your must chili junction to matter and the chairs the Jumbo Comate. 세자 용서 가지 봐. 제발 때문에 용도 와. 딱 이제 누구나 때문에 용 되게 와. 딱 이제 제 가서래. 제 어디에 제도 아니 제 키모데 딱 이제 제도 잠바 공부 되게 키모지 스티브로 딱 이제 이제 스티브로 딱 이제 얘네다 딱 제도 잠바 공부 이제 총알랑가 로 중립 보도 주부인데 아니 배시에서 맞았어. 아니 제도 잠바 공부 나 그냥 공 다부 거쳐도 나 그냥 칠려 유스. 얘네 나 그냥 게 가서래. did the Machabares, in a direct chemotherapy by Ninja Cabbage the Troyinsa, and the leg Jibatachin, and then Nachabres. What the nigga soy Luguba? What I didn't see there? Didn't I see in Dungaranto that Papa Tomato will attend the young another Garato to touch me. Same word.
For example, in this regard, in terms of the obscurations that we have, or being unable to see the holy beings and so on around us. There's this story related to the Master Asanga, who kind of very aware of the generation in the teachings at his time, was striving to revive them and determined to have a vision of Manjushri in order to be able to know how to proceed. And thereby he began meditating in an isolated place in order to do so, initially going for 3 years and then extending this on another 3 years, until 12 years later, he still hadn't had a vision of Manjushri.
Maitreya.
Oh, Maitreya. Sorry, Maitreya. Maitreya, and he kind of gave up, and he said, "That's it, and there's no point. I'm going to leave my cave and head down the hill back to the village." And now on the way, he met with a very angry female dog, red dog, and that he noticed that the dog was afflicted by the mange, kind of like had these sores that were pussy and infested by maggots, and he developed this really strong sense of compassion for the dog, but he couldn't get anywhere near the dog because of course the dog was so angry and frightened that anybody would harm it, and so he had to kind of contemplate what best to do. And he kind of concluded that the only kind of means he had to try and relieve the dog, because he considered if he left the wound as was, the dog would die. So he had to remove these maggots that were infesting the wound. And so he tried with the hand, but of course the dog would react each time. And so he said, I have to try and do so with my own tongue to try and get these away. And as he kind of slowly got closer to the dog, the hind regions of the dog, of course the stench and the sight of everything kind of disgusted him, and he closed his eyes and then just removed the maggots with his own tongue, and when he had finished and opened his eyes, Maitreya was there in front of him. And Asanga's reaction was, "Look, I've been meditating for 12 years to try and get a vision of you. Where were you? Why didn't you appear to me?" And Maitreya said, "I was there all the time, but you had karmic obscurations that prevented you from seeing me. And it's only by manifesting here in order to generate your compassion in this way that you have purified the last of those stains or those negativities. And that's why you have this vision now." And so we're saying the example is showing that even if somebody is highly realized as a Sangha, can have an error in his reaction to what he's seeing and so on, and the person he's in front of, and then why wouldn't we also have a mistaken, error-laden attitude towards those who we meet and interact with? And so it's always best to assume that they are superior, and that therefore respect and benefit is the only choice for us to have.
뭐랑 옷을 내 다war지 이사로 뭐랑게 아니 제주 잠바 공부 샵자 아니 제가 여름에도 제가 요말 왔다 됐다스.
And so saying that following on then this account is that Maitreya said, "I will be in the form of this dog. I want you to put me on your shoulders and walk down into the village." And Asanga, of course, did that.
말에 다들 키드 말다 다 제주 잠바 공부랑 넘버 2네 다데 저라 이마전에 되다 동계나는 가 인더스 봉방을 샤니 켄 저다 근데 제주 잠바 공부 예 제가 쇼서
so sorry, yeah. So Maitreya said, "No, put me on your shoulders." The form of Maitreya, "Put me on your shoulders and walk into the village." And Asanga did, and announcing that he had not just that vision of Maitreya, but also he had Maitreya on his shoulders as he walked through. But all the villagers looking could only see a red dog, and they concluded that Asanga had just lost it. He had gone crazy all those years up in the cave, all except for one old woman who had purified negativities to the extent that she could see Maitreya's foot, no more, but a foot, and therefore concluded that Asanga was indeed telling the truth. So the conclusion is really that, due to the limitations really of what we can perceive according to our karma is very real, and therefore we should be very, very careful in how we interpret any situation.
아니 지지 잠바 고문님도 야 패줘봐 잠바 안 간데 이거 준세 아니 되네 다 잠주 땡아 좋아 잠주 가서 파진기 대바 다 파진기 용기 대바 아니 잠주 땡아 어다디 마가서데 되가서데 마 잠주 땡아 숑데 아니 지지 잠바 공부를 잠바 공부 그다 파버토멜 파버토멜 점불을 만 남페어 뭐다 되는 인바인자 뭐다 로다 되줄 줄을 다 대바이나 다 말아도 섭섭지에 개침버려도 어떻게
And so the conclusion, of course, of that particular account is that following this, Asanga left with Maitreya and was taken to Gandham, and there he received the five, what were known as the five texts coming from Maitreya, and brought them back to the world, and they're still kind of extant. Sajuba, whether they so these include the ornament of realization, the ornament of the sutras, the text on the Bodhisattva practices and states, and so on. The second of these subheadings was then looking at the other mind and say the reasoning why it is correct to proceed with faith in such a being. And the beginning of verse 35 explains, but if a virtuous attitude should arise in that regard, its fruits will multiply far more than that. So saying then, the opposite here, of course, if there is such a person who has the Bodhisattva attitude, and then one is able to respond or interact with that being in the correct way, through respect and through faith, including the pure faith, the manifest faith, the faith of conviction, and that here the result of such behavior, the beneficial result of such behavior will far outshine the negativity that was described previously. And so it's important to understand this as well, that the goodness that one may proceed with has its own reward as well.
다 단다 니마 되게 디고사 펜버 계속 다른 집에 소소 펜버 공부식으로 소소 년생 개발이나 소소 년생 개발 장시다 년소를 내드리고다 빼죠 다 돈이 아니 다 계속 다니 접을라 가서라 이라도 다외 안티 가서다 다 대박 개발이나 대박 개네 아니 될라 그거다 아니 펜버 주바이나 다 년생 개발은 다 연구를 했어 가서 다 계속 다니 접어 내가 서버 자원이야 될라 펜버 삼도 유바 인사 아니 랑게 될라 그거다 찍고 다 될라 때네 아니 가서라 딜레 랍차 용되고 랍차 용되 지금 다 계속 되면 저 네베서 뭐 싸워니네 요 말이대 얘네 랑게 네베 삼로 되기 때문에 어느 거 디바 또 신경 돌아들 연구도 와 얘네야 개와 제발래 사 연구도 개와 전에 덮차 연구도 와 가서 계속 다니 전부 거에 유니버시티 소수게 되는 유니버시티도 디송대가 돈은 덮차 용되지 다 요도 다 돼서 나라들 고급치야 왔다
So this is an important point that previously when describing the kind of the potency and extent of the negative result from disparaging a bodhisattva is kind of saying that because it's great because one is counteracting the pure attitude of the bodhisattva who has never any moment of harmful intent at all, but only is considering to benefit. And so this is kind of in contradiction, isn't it? So that's why it's great there. Now here in this situation where one is able to develop a faith, be it any of the different kinds of faith, and as a result is kind of respectful towards this bodhisattva, has the idea to support and benefit this bodhisattva. Now, because one is thinking and behaving in a way which is supportive of the attitude of the bodhisattva, that sort of then marries together and increases the energy of the benefit. And so it's kind of like much greater than the negativity, the result of the negativity that was engaged in before. And therefore, because of this capacity to make even far more benefit by harmonizing with the attitude of a bodhisattva, this then should mean that every interaction we have, we should see it as an opportunity.
never 제바 이네 내년들 페퍼 쪽에 공부시켜 줘 봐. 그 공부시다 지금도 와. 다 되게 누가 믿어 줘 봐다.
And likewise too, because of that unique capacity of the bodhisattva, that even in the face of harm, they will benefit. They will always benefit. This adds a great deal more potency than to any act of faith and benefit towards a bodhisattva.
what 다 되네 이마 인사 아니 저거 지 주대가 지다 그래서 주다 제부 조단데 제부 충조 가서 주충조 점에네 제부 봐도 매번 용해도 그 주다 제부 조단 지르와 다치 준대 숙쟁의 거부에 대해 제부 충조 지게 제부 다 제부 쓰려다 가자 건다 주 사배 충조 지게 아니 제부 배 빠도 매바치 배 숙청부 숙정 것도 이나 다 딜레 난기 준대 아니 다 dob차 요새 난기 준대게 패자 패자대 랍차 요새 대대자 난기 준대게 패자 다외 자와서 치료가 준대라 매비체 딘나 신게 패처보다 요래 치 준대라 패처보 요다 이나 난기 준대다 그 제발 dob친구 요랬어
This is also backed up by the theory of cause and effect, that we can understand and have witnessed the ideas of a small cause bringing about a very powerful result, such as a very small seed planted can result in a huge fruit-laden tree. And we can see how much more powerful the result is to the cause. And so what is said here is that this is referred to as an external external cause and effect relationship, but the internal cause and effect relationship is that is even far more powerful than that, and that a very small virtuous cause can lead to a very huge beneficial result. So powerful if it's a benefit that one is doing, and powerful also if it's a harm that one is engaged in.
식발양전의 족발양전의 신규열에 거저 소속의 아니 지금 가서도 제부 중에 제부디 톱쳐보지 거기에나 ND 교육관을 배준 제고 같은 깔래 잡고 받이 세팅이 왔다 다 나게 존재래도 아니 다 삼로 당 마다 주고 되게 열어 와 삼로 당 마다 주고 지난 번 존재 그러다 집어지자래 중국도 뭐 좋아라 제부 연구 말했다 집어지자래 주제가 최 임바 사배절라 거 가브리 갑자기 숙성모요, 갑자기 숙성모 중조요. 뒤가서 그 줄을 뜨고 이면 다 된거 열어 봐. 근데 이만 인자 그래서 두제가 좀 근데 지금 이네 랑귤라 마디마 치자요 말해. 가요 말해. 근데 이마자 아니 난게 아니 디기라 소바 디게 돼야. 대화다 디기라 소바 되대 대다 탐자자 라나게 줄에 냐바도 거지. 빼는 치 준대시 치 준대 치게 치기 준대 치기 내다도 저거 라나게 줄에 뜨고 이도 아니 나게 디기라 소바 동해라 소바 되게 줄에 뜨고 버데 들라드네. 나 뭐저 셰토바 체고고도 와. 셰토바 체고고도 와.
And so by and large, when we talk about the theory of cause and effect, it's to some extent, even if somebody doesn't accept the Buddha Dharma, even if somebody doesn't accept past and future lives, that in terms of external cause and effect, we have some notion of how that comes about, and even accept that, you know, farmers, for example, you know, they see the seeds they sow, and they see them reach the point where they are harvest, and so they can understand the kind of like cause and effect results in that way, the external cause and effect. And so it's a kind of irrefutable, isn't it? Here we're saying that just because then though people don't consider an internal cause and effect mechanism, that it doesn't work, but in fact it works in exactly the same way, functions in exactly the same way, and it's just a great deal more powerful, more potent. And so in terms of any conditioned phenomena, you know, they have to proceed in accordance with cause and effect. And so it's kind of like, from terms of our own inner happiness, we should look to the workings of cause and effect externally as a sort of an indication of how things are working internally as well, and just to see it as something that confirms an internal mechanism for cause and effect.
오다 땅가자다데 지가서 장조 선발라 년생 개발이나 아니 지지 다 년송의 동행료 지지 연구래 아니 제가 가서도 땅가자제 가서도 땅가자 당화 개발이나 담바이 가서 유다 집이 조다 지금 됐 지상 거저 롱데 산제가 송데 쓰고 열때 다 산제가 송나 마송나 뭐여기 내수 뒤차대요 봐 뭐여기 내수 근데 제발이나 저부 되는 쇼거 다 이나 가라서 뭐 저거 매바 인사 아니 산제 뭐저 나와 산제가 송인자 디과 연구 이베 중사 말이야. 산제가 뭐저 나와다. 뭐저 말아. 그래서 뭐 저거요 말이야. 하고 요 말이 안 되면서 아니 산게 그 디케마 인자 아니 뭐저 나와로다.
So just again, I think emphasizes how important it is for us to not only be aware of, but to have faith and conviction in the law of cause and effect. To understand that what I do lays down causes, and there will be results to that. I have to own causes internally and results that happen as a result of those causes. And so, from our point of view, when these verses describe the consequences of a negative attitude towards bodhisattvas or a positive attitude like faith towards a bodhisattva, it's simply just relating the theory of cause and effect. And even though it says here, this is the Buddha said so in his teachings, that even if the Buddha, whether the Buddha said or not, we can see that it's obvious. It's a logical presentation, isn't it? And so the only difference from our point of view is that the Buddha, of course, sees directly. It's kind of like the direct procession of all of this that's going on. But for us, we come to certainty through a logical kind of analysis.
Tene imbayinsa sanje tere sonro tole kasa ngata we kasa ke chosonge kasa ke chum misore nyamba jutares an wotere sonro ta kanje je ta sanje konda we kasa zuge ene chosingires dimebe ani kasa juma zuge chosongto go maris hago to go maris tene imbayinsa otadi kasa de netela sagures ta netela sapsap chigures the subsub majena and social nucleus. Number two that is nucleus. There is a Geshe Dani Jambos Meteor Mena Shite and Hagumaris Kagisatani. The name by Yenza and Netla and subsubjects. The Majena and nucleus number two numbers, that's social nucleus or nucleus, netla subsubjects. What is good?
So this image of the the bodhisattva attitude being the embers of a fire hidden by the ashes above, that we can't tell just by looking, but we can, through inference, understand that the fire is definitely still alive beneath there. And so in our dealings with such a fire, we have to be very, very careful.
다 수마되나 차세제 잡수 조여바니스 다 근데 기부 담바텔라 아니 차세시 아니 잡수 조여바리스 잡수 조여바니 자왈레 게세 남라 도게 챔비짱 디바 미조 개왕한기 패스 간라 셈게 담바린 첸데 개와 데콜라 차세시 간라 너바제자 데레와 데베 중네들 잡수 치시
And so then the third of these subheadings, therefore, that to go to refuge and prostrate to such a being is appropriate. This is dealt with in the second half of verse number 35 and 36. So it says, when bodhisattvas greatly suffer, they generate no negativity. Instead, their virtues naturally increase. I bow down to the body of them in whom the sacred precious mind is born. I seek refuge in that source of joy, who brings to happiness even those who harm him or her.
Geshe namla doge chimbu 장스러다 게세 다니 첨부 쓰는데 다 가마슈나 하고 말에 데레에서 섭서 제고도 데레에서 게세 다니 첨부 남라 도게 첨부다 게 첨부 쓰네 도게 첨부 때 소라 바비자 소주고 소라 다 내가 두고 연아야 바자 컨트롤 안에 디벨레 그래서 다 그래서 미중와 제고를 미중시 미중와 제고를 미중시 개발 미자됐다 미중와 지금 엔디 개발 미자와 지금 삼사다 소속에 대세 바유대 개침보레스 개침보레 다 디나시 소속에 대세 바유대에 대해 중앙이나 안 소속에 아니 지금 내게 기본 담바 된줄 미베 대발라 소베 아니 개와 개외초 근데 제와이네 아니 지금 강게 야 패도그레스 가서 다 같이 가서 대화를 소리 되게 돼 아니 랑슈 패주그스 배워줄라
And so these verses then describe that when you have a great bodhisattva, a great being, who is undergoing great adversity, even to the point where their life is in danger, they will not generate negativity such as anger, etc. There is no way that this can arise in the mind, and indeed, even instead of that, they will only have an attitude of virtue. Their virtue will naturally increase. Virtues such as faith in the teachings and so on will naturally increase. And saying really that when we come across a being or become known, aware of any kind of a person with that sort of precious holy mind, that they should pay respects with their body, speech, and mind, and prostrate, and that for anybody there, when they are harmed, even though they are harmed, they will never return that harm, but rather automatically want to just benefit the one who harms. And such an extraordinary attitude is worthy of our going for a refuge as well.
Lunga yesu konata dare tewa yishike tewa ngunduke tewa dendeke kosu kube konata cha tselo shebata kala nyoba che jangsata jiga dendeke kibu tambati dendeke janjuga sem ke nyamshe nage tila kala nyoba che jang ane nyobe lela nyobe miche parasa nyobe lela nyoba miche pa mase an tewa pashi kebata tewe chungne tewa 바시케마다 대회 중에 장주 선바텔라 잡수 치고 다 간제 어디르세 다 간제 저기 다 간제 그때 장주 선바를 뺐다 장주 선바 쓰는데 파다 탐바 주가 맞세 소로 내가 제게데 네벨랜디 탐바 주에 고바 차되게 되면 진짜 당 어제 장주 선바를 내가 지금 강사들 네베게 남이게 제부 용거리 디 제바 주는데 영화 주도 단데 용거리 때 이나야 자주 서봐 코난 경우는 내발레 펴버 주베게 아니 고바시에 되게 제마 인사 너네 펴버 주베게 고바시게 제마 인사 야 제와 중알아 때네 그때 내가 있네 내가 딜레 게 대부 판 내가 대부 주 소소권의 동에 용거다 자주 선배원에 코 펴버 주야 로 요바 인사 된데게야 제와 지금 톤에 야 남시나 야 지금 가서 뒤 대부 아 대화 중간 딜을 때는 야 제보 가서 그냥 패배게 제보지 용되고요. 가서 장주 선바디 뇌랜데 패마 주베게 고바시가 뒤또 그냥 야 거기서 소수게 뒤바 사바데 제보지 용으로 와. 얘네 장주 선바데 원에 제도 저때 야 남시나 근데 제가 집에 쳐다 제다. 다가네 시가 지금 원단데 되게 야 되게 제와 제야 용되고 요래. 뇌레 패마 줍수 있죠. 와. 코다 주다 코야 뒤 나로 가서 장주 선배원에 그 편바 주베게 누가 주바 편바 주베게 로 다가라 대대로 와 아니 뒤 온기 딱 거저 준대 맞춰와 용구여상 안 뒤에 제와 중화 들라 때네 야 남시나 다 지금 소수 제부 동에다 되게 용제 소수 사바 되게 용 제라야 최다 제다 최다 제와 용에다 아니 저 특바 집에 최 냠내 제다 된데게 야 제와 제 용되게 요래 지금 것도 가서 내 자주 세배 편바 땅다라로 너를 되게 편바 주기 수요마다 근데 이제 맞아 근데 인사 칼라 녀바 지자 너를 미제바 마세 대화 바시 개바 제바 근데 대회 중에 자주 세바 될라 다 잡수 치고 세고 들어와
And so, on the one hand, the Bodhisattva is worthy of prostrating towards, and that one does so with that triple faith and with body, speech, and mind. And then, with regard to going for refuge, the Bodhisattva, by considering the kind of like the commitment that the Bodhisattva have taken on, that even though they are harmed, they will never return harm for harm, but rather they will try to be of help and benefit to the one who harms. Again, as pointing out here, it's important too that to understand that the one who harms, of course, will, as we have discovered, have to experience the negative result of the harm that they have engaged in. They will have the ripened result of whatever they have done, that's for sure. But beyond that, because of just that connection with such a holy being as a bodhisattva, that subsequently they will maybe meet with the Dharma, meet with the Mahayana teachings, and therefore, in that same encounter, uh, um, uh, as they're accruing negativity, they're also accruing some great benefit just by virtue of their connection with the bodhisattva. And so, in that way, it talks about the bodhisattva is that source of joy, the source of happiness, and that therefore I seek refuge. And so, who brings to happiness even those who harm him or her.
Misunderstand Majila, yeah? Or that never gave a mamjilla.
So again, I says, please don't misunderstand what I'm talking. The emphasis here that just if you happen to harm a bodhisattva, that eventually you hedge your bets and you will get some benefit out of it. that would not be the right attitude to bring a take from this. Yeah.
That's so such a chilla donation that would namely put the good chamber. This is Tobarito, that I wish enough to do that. Narchig Tani Chabola, Pandabache, and it Tanya so to get a Manguno. In a ya, Tendegia, Chanju Sabasuga, Tendegi, Casura. No, but nearly temperature the Tendega talk with Tari Sanji at Tempa the chair. Casura Sanji at Tempa the chair, they shook some potato Mundua. Sure, said the chair, my body should tell Jotti Narazo. Do I share that those are good to there? When I don't church, got to sit. Canadian Kongan Tata, you won't take it. That is not what that chicken. Keba moving yella. Tiny simple never get the lane never standing and so that you know. In a young corner of nearly to make Jimmy said that he took it. That is Sunday at them by the chair. She'll also never your so it's intended to be in a hockey. What is what? What is the just a church someone Yamlet and the Brita was it? Tangamindua. They got to what it was not so the church, Donat and the Pasarina. Yana Tani Simple never nearly pepper to which Jimmy is at the Ina.
And so again, I'm saying, yeah, from our perspective, and even though we've met with the Dharma and maybe engaged in a little practice, that there's a lot of things that must be still in question. You know what I mean? Like we've met with the teachings, we studied a little bit, but inner workings of really what's going on in terms of karma are completely beyond us, isn't it? We just don't know. It's very easy to understand how we could have already experienced a great deal of time in the lower realms, then have been reborn, and due to some imprint laid down by a meeting with such a being like this, that we are able to meet with the Dharma now, that have a little limited understanding of what's going on. and this all can be played out over eons of time, eons before that these things came about due to the imprints, of course, that remain on the mind. We somehow have managed to meet with the teachings now and able to make some progress on the path. But it's so much of it is kind of like really beyond our ken, really, isn't it? That we don't know how things are kind of like arising the way they are, because we don't have an insight into our karmic kind of store, as it were.
Yeah. So the because the paper to the basso the never check color never check and because color never check then they what they to just never check that never check the paper to commercial and namshina tapa never chicken namshina young so Sanjay Teba the chair Teba Chimichula and chicken dot to some chick and cook up right the manguchi then they don't young take us to check it or Kasana then they talk Kasana Tani Chabo the Jawaji Chundu Niembe Jawa Gazada so Jawa Niemba Shaba in a Tani Chimbu Tone, young Goji Sangu Jawaji, young take the corner to get on the tone. And then they take a young Mount so to Nami Tebuta to the Yonea, Namsina, Sanjay Temba the chair, Tebaji Chula, and Tebachi, Sabachi, Tende, cook up chair, two almost sort of chicken or that day is up the condition that but Narazu the children never you done it, and chicken at the nation at Tani Chimbu and two get on the Tonan Arazula chick, did it was Chamina chicken to Baretwa. The Tobasatang Tani Chimbu the younger Stoba Marta Tangarazu without the church that Java, because the church that Java and Chipita with the Jetubundua. They do not tell that Pigay Thank you, Togi. Chanju somebody thank you, Togi, Cheteva Solach. Cheteva Solach, what that is. Particular China source what did that they were June charge somebody jobs chose what is that what is that you will tell you when it changes some job same pay share change what the do
and so yes, from our point of view, like where we are in a position to kind of accept that which is beneficial, and to be able to see how logically that our interactions with others have been can be an opportunity for us to increase that benefit, and that these holy beings that we're referring to, who have generated that mind of enlightenment, that any interaction that we have had with them will produce this kind of ripened result of where we have this rebirth, this capacity to meet the Dharma and have an affinity for the teachings themselves, and that this is all the power of the basis we're referring to, that they kind of like the potency of these meetings that we have had, maybe in the distant past, are still very powerful here in the present, and that's something that we should not merely discount. So just finishing off this chapter, then it had the second main headlines. Was the second was the name of the chapter, and that this refers to from the text known as entering the activities of a bodhisattva. This chapter is known as the benefits of the mind of enlightenment.
What did it?
That completes the chapter.
탑시 강용에 아니 지금 심지어 탐대도 사제 고마 통나지마 토바 지기 성서 로케 아니 로케네 아니 강도도 가서래 다가자 지금 그래서 저발 랍토바 지에 다가 대신 그 땅가라서 내 당고 인상 가라 쪽에 류가 예수님께 아니 그 지금 그래서 가서도 네가 당그 말에 네가 마땅한테 마땅하다 안 다가 대신 가라 쪽에 다 지금 맛이 뭔가 숙성부 주요바 인상 아니 페마 쪽에 we should choose the pemba to be in some Get him machine moving on get never give a joy in my never did. Pepe to a show. Pepe came to a show. What it is? Watch it, she would get to me.
And so from our point of view then, to understand, to take from this is that, to really work at our motivation, and that motivation obviously to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings should really, be something that is manifest in our actions, in our behaviors, and that to kind of develop that mindset so thoroughly that it is manifest and apparent in our actions. That's very, very important to understand also that, whatever capacity we have with our body, speech, and mind, we are not fulfilling that to its maximum. And that we need to be able to see, in what way can we bring direct and indirect benefit to all situations, and especially in an instance where we are experiencing harm, that we are very, very careful not to return that harm, but also just to think of what can I do in benefit here? What's going to be the most beneficial response I can take? That's really important.
Temba tsingi tenzing kibu nang ani yuring bi tane ani kasoda ta netu kutse temba ani deta tu ge shego ta da tuye ngo achi temba kewa jowa dewa tenzing kibu nang kutse tenje ani tu ge shego ta da tuye ani soso ngo so gyune ani dende tuye chido pema tuye chido ngo achi and get the soso mashi mombe onge ani dende tuye la neba kewa ina ya neba ti pembe kendo kyo shosa Pembe to do a shows. What I yansi here. Because Naranzo chicken pen toya down to get the pen, chickens Mumbe Ongi, pen toilet, never does on your mother, and the pen toilet, Nukia Lamar to Yagatene or so Kulumia in it, then they can know what Pembe you do a show. Pembe can't do a show, watch the shoe get to my
And so to also take care that with whatever virtue that we create, that we dedicate all that to the attainment of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, dedicated to the happiness for all sentient beings, and that the teachings themselves may remain for a long time, that all the holy wishes of the holy beings may be fulfilled, that whatever they wish for, and that and also from that in every possible way we can directly and indirectly bring benefit to sentient beings. And we know that, whether we have generated the motivation and then carried through with a decent virtue to be of fairly definite benefit to others is one thing, but also we often proceed through our own ignorance, isn't it, not knowing, and to engage in perhaps unskillful actions. But even those, we should try to, fervently dedicate that. Oh, may they be beneficial. May they have brought about some benefit here. Even though I haven't got a motivation, that still may my actions all bring some benefit.
Taniba semkene chobala lapsu de ta niche janju sem wesoa and choba pari to chimatula lobe two laws ta tabu janju sem wesoa de la niche ne joa yala to the joa yala chata choba da jambu mo to tande topsi chame kone ani kasa de ta geje diba shabata ani gewala jesu yera so tunge so so ba mo to tande Semsua, Murch, that Angola nature, Louis Shungshawa, Louis Tenshawa, that Angola Shecha, Chuba Pua, Chatsawa, Japsutua, Dibashaba was Angola nature, Chuba Pua, Kuba, Chuba Work, said what I need, what is it.
And so we begin the second chapter, the disclosure of negativity. And so I'm saying here that once we generate these two minds of enlightenment, the aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment, Then we engage in the practices of a bodhisattva. And so here this has two main outlines. One is the protection or the guarding of the mind of enlightenment, and the other is how to engage in the trainings of the six perfections in terms of the activities. And the first of these has two. First is that looking at the prior to the preliminary practices of prostration, making offering, and going for refuge, and so on. That having engaged in those, we need to engage in the purification of negativities, being the inconducive conditions for practice, and we do this through applying the four opponent powers. And then we also need to rejoice in virtue, that is to complete the collection of conducive conditions for practice. And so this is the actual means by which we really protect and guard the mind of enlightenment. And so with regard to this, there are two further headings. First of all is the explanation of the text of this chapter, and then there'll be the explanation of the name of this chapter. And with regard to the first, it has four headings: the offering of the making of offerings, the prostration, 3, going for refuge, 4, the confession of negativity. And with regard to the first of these, that is the making of offerings, it's the necessity of making offerings, and then secondly, the actual offerings themselves.
다 쳐봐 표현 고바다 쳐봐 뭐야 다 당보들라 쳐봐 표현 고바들라 라다 고바들라 당보를 자와래 린제 셈도 소와자 자외칠 대신 샤바 남다 담배 추 군조지만 메다 산제세 연대 자주 남다 레버 추
And so the first of these, then the necessity of making offerings, is verse number 1, which says, in order to seize that precious mind, I offer now to the Tathagatas, to the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel, and to the children of Buddha, the oceans of excellence.
다 간제 레베 초 탐제 중에 들어와 다 간제 다 간제 지금 대화 진행바 대구 신대 되려죠. 지금 동네 진행바 대구 랑대 되려죠. 소환의 시간 다 같이 레벨초 탐색의 중에다 레벨초 탐색의 중에다 렌제스 장주가 셈 장주가 셈데 다 장주가 셈레스 다 대송화 자외치도 송화 자외치도 대송화 자외치도 좀제 대시도 대신 샤바 남당 대신 샤바 남당 아니 담배 취 군조 담배 다 대신 샤바 남 산계죠 대신 샤바 남다다 로 초주의 대신 샤바 남다 아니 담배 취어서 군조 담배 취다 란싱게 다와 로부게 지만 매배 태징이 kokdam kok된다 남데 dem바니다 다 산계게 세다 자주스뭐 파베 진된데 다 파베 진된데 군조 숨제 군조 름보체 넘버 숨제 다 연대게 자주 첨부 나와 다들 연대게 자주 첨부 다 자주나 배차네 자주 첨부 나와 남라 다 뭐다 안 뭐수다 안 소소 삼바다 삼 뭐수다 삼조 남바다베 레버 쳐마 자워서 레버 쳐마 지기 자워셔
So then this verse looks at in this the mind, this jeweled mind, this precious mind, which is the source of all the collection of what is good. And so it's referring to the Bodhisattva mind, the mind of enlightenment. And so it's here saying, in order to guard this, in order to protect this mind, I make offerings to those gone to bliss, the Tathagatas, as the Buddha jewel, and also to the holy Dharma as the Dharma jewel, that which is naturally pure and free of stain, and in actuality, it is the paths of cessation and true paths on the mind stream of the true paths and paths of cessation and true paths of the Mahayana vehicle on the mind stream, and then also to the the Sangha jewel, which are the Bodhisattvas, the Arya Bodhisattvas, the children of the conquerors. And all the triple gem is this ocean of good qualities that they then are worthy really of the offerings, the perfect and pure offerings I can make, whether actual material offerings or those emanating from the mind. And I will set about doing this.
What it did, that the Chitaya, Loki Gamasuda, and the King of the Internet, Yamika Sava Tabo Yovina, that and the Kujosu Kandadi, Channel Sungutwata, Tibachibu on the Channel Sungu, Chita Javina, Sagete, Captain Bapocha, that the Shabanam said water, Captain Bapocha. Chili Jab Wurch, that Cote the Lamte, Cote, the Lamte, Tony was to be shut up down, and the Tiba Pomba. Cote the Lamte, Tony was to be shut up, Pomba Pombati. The Cote Pompacha, T. Casade, Casolata, Casace, Jabu, Shokuchi. That the neck of the public in the Rota Gazeta, Janjus of a public in the Tibachi on the Chidata, Neranga Papa the Kajana, and that they were to want to tell you what the public in the also take up to the Tados, your what, up to the Tados. Takaja, number immediate, or jump to college, jump to connect the Casada, Sanjay the Jap, Chedi Jap to the Tato. Sanjay the Jap, Chedi Jap, because Sanjay the Jap Dumbo, Chedi Jap, can do the Jap to the Tato. What did Jap some says, Jap some skill, what did it check? What did it check?
And so, just to clarify, for perhaps anybody new to Buddhism, there, the older students will have become already well aware of when we talk about the triple gem and so on. But here, in the context of this verse, we talk about in the Mahayana context and following the Mahayana vehicle, we go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Buddha is known as the Buddha jewel. They are the ones who really kind of demonstrate the teachings and so on. The Dharma jewel is referred to as the actual refuge because it is the direct realization of emptiness on the mind stream, and therefore having these path of cessation and true paths on the mind stream of a being, and that then the Sangha jewel, as referred to here, Arya Bodhisattvas, and that these then from a point of view of a Buddhist, we go for refuge to these three. The Buddha as the one who's demonstrating the teachings, the Dharma as the actual teaching, and the Sangha as the one who accompany us, who support us on the path.
What did it do? What did it say? That and that the Teba Chamber on the Chedu and the Choju, Dakaja, Rota, Choju, Dakaja, Rota Choju, Tisha, Namdas, Sajan, that Japto Baba, that I'm sure. Taking a Dakaja, Ranching it, Tabia, Lobokitima, maybe taking a call of me, quoted the Lambinicha. Content Tony wasn't to be shut up. Chanju Simba Tony wasn't to be shut up. And content the tip of the pomba, the any tip of the pomba. And then and Sanjay said Chanju Simba, public into a chat. That tomorrow on the Janata, because of the Nierangi, Papa Tika shower, what did the chat? What did the chat? Sanjay said Janjusima public into the Kunjo Sum Yede Jasuchmonga Namla, with some number of never Chobacha worship was a Tagaja, as a number in the Japsum and according word to a dish we catch away, but it was a word to a catch away in body. Sanjay to the water, was a lonely don't up to college a jump day. Sanjay Chom did as well. What are the that conte was a debate on the Chibet. Look at the debate. 얘네 야 산제 건축어 말이야. 다 근데 태와 집에 온도 잖아 다. 다 근데 산제 타이 버쳐봐. 타이 버쳐 어디서 그래 가서는 단단히 루규 온도 집에 산제로 와가지고 개바티 루규 온도 산제 시바 남제 시바 쓰고 봐. 어쩐지 다 근데 내가 쳐봐 쳐서 왔다 되게 기분 담바티 남라 아니 다 쳐봐 쳐서 쳐봐 쳐서 오자. 다 니바 쳐봐 뭐라 숨자. 그래서 답을 마소에 제기 쳐봐. 아니 라제 르구와 아니 르 주베 쳐봐. 어쩐 쳐봐 숨자.
So from the point of view of, again, the Buddha Dharma, that the Buddha here, the one gone to bliss, as referred to here in the verse, it says Tathagatas. So this refers to Buddhas, of course, and that normally we think of the historical Buddha born over 2,500 years ago, and as the one who expounded the teachings, kind of made them, demonstrated the teachings, and the Dharma as being the Mahayana path of cessation and path, true paths on the mind stream, and the Sangha being these Arya Bodhisattvas. And in a general sense, these Aryas can be from the hearer and solitary realizer vehicles. But in this case, the Mahayana version, we're talking about Arya Bodhisattvas. And that in kind of the historical sense, then we have the fourth Buddha of this fortune of Eon expounding the teachings and so on, and we based our knowledge on that. But of course, we're also aware that there have been countless enlightened beings, countless Buddhas, to keep that in mind as well. Okay. So, the second of these outlines that were mentioned above was the actual offerings. This is three subheadings. And the first is offering materials that are unowned, then offering one's body, and then offering mentally emanated offerings.
당고 가서 답을 마소에 제표 중전로 당번에 다가서 최배제 무엇을 자발래 매도 제보진이 여바다 매게 나바 간다 여바다 아니 지대를 이제 진이 여바다 추자 이동과 지여다 이제 그것도 대신도 나자 사초 외신 양가당 제시매도 제제 비바다 신간 제사 야가 되었다 하소지대 나야 지단이 뼈다 박사시다 인제시 마음이 투며 로도 넘바다 시야 초바위베 견남니 초다 증보 빼마 견바당 넘바신도 견예 이원대.
And so with regard to the first of these, that is the offering of materials that are unowned, that has three subheadings as well. First of all, recognizing the materials that are to be offered. Secondly, then how one goes about making the offering. And thirdly, the reasoning behind the offering of materials that are unowned. And so the following verses deal with the first of these, simply recognizing the materials that are offered. We start with verse number 2, and this will go up to the first two lines of verse number 5. So whatever flowers and fruits there are, and whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in this world, and whatever clean, refreshing waters, likewise gem-encrusted mountains, forest groves, quiet and joyful places, heavenly trees bedecked with flowers, and trees with fruit-laden branches, fragrances of the celestial realms, incense, wishing trees and jewel trees, uncultivated harvests, and all ornaments that are worthy to be offered, lakes and pools adorned with lotuses, and the beautiful cry of wild geese.
다 직대나 답이 마소야 빼말라소야 매도다 아니 아루라소 제부치니 여바다 아니 가불소 맹게나바 강다 여바다로 왔다 안 직대나 셀 무유소 린제치니에다 림부체 리치지 야라 게den기 추다 야라 게den기 추세다 추 야라 게데치니 여바다스다 그추 가서다 시와다 양와다 아니 심바다 아니 추잠바다 다와다 아니 추팅가와 매바다 아니 사나 투나 아니 템버 대와다 tuna toa la minyo ba te kanche chu ge ta ka se kyo yong su tene yuen de ke da te ba ho da de ke chu ka se ya la ke de chu so ta kanche ya la ke de chu zang shi yi dong wa ji yue da an de se ge ri la su ba ta ri bu che ri da de xin do na ze da sa jo yue xin nyang ga wa da jue xin ran ji me do na so de ke ji chen de ba pi wa da 신강 대부 성분 미바다 신 대부 성분 미바 신도 라소베 대부 성분 미바 지외 야가 투와즈 뒤바다 다가자 어디 대부 나소바 미네 하다 루라소베 지데나 양 현계의 시중기 제성부 요간다 어떤데게 지착되게 제성부 요게 성고 당니 두베 뼈다 군대 중에 박상의 신다人家 나소베 중에 신다 아는 초당 추진지부 매도 배매 겸바다 되는 남바 신도 개념 봐 저거 이도 와다 통수제 몸에 봤다 근데 미들이 배주지는 많이 봐 몸에 별로도 라시리아 충대 로도 남바다 현양에서 군조라 처벌을 왜 개 제만 남네 의와자고 의와기고 셔바고죠
And so here is saying that concentrating on all these materials that are unowned, that don't have an owner, a worldly owner, such as a lotus and other flowers, such as the myrobalan and the fruits of like that, and also beautiful scented woods like camphor and so on, and that whatever exists in that regard. And also in the world, like all the gold and the silver, precious metals and precious gems, water that is extremely pleasing to use. Here it describes water having 8 specific qualities. That it is clear, it is light, it is tasty, it is soft, it is pure. That there is no negative smell from it, that if one drinks it, then it will be very pleasant to the throat, and if one drinks it, there will be no adverse effects in the stomach. So this kind of pure water, that golden mountains refer to, golden encrusted mountains, then also these forests and delightful kind of like arrays of trees and woods, the orchards where the many varied fruits adorned, as it were, with them, and they are arranged beautifully. That the fruit is so plentiful that it weighs down the branches as if they're bowing, and that again also then from the worldly celestial beings and the nagas, they are making offerings of spontaneously arisen incense and piles of powdered incense, and that there's the wish-fulfilling tree to provide all that is wished for, all that is necessary. Then the tree that where one can pluck different kinds of gems, kind of a jewel-encrusted tree. The bathing pools and lakes that are, adorned with lotus flowers, and then the melodious cry of the ducks and geese that are coming to land in these pools. And basically, we're saying that all of which is kind of like, oh, sorry, all the fruits as well of uncultivated land, producing plentiful harvests, and that anything in terms of materials or adornments that is worthy to be offered to the triple gem, I offer all of this.
What did I talk about? Chua Pua. That Chua Pua couple of invited Chua Pua did that and Chua Pune and it did that Shesu Samsa Jenny. Shesu Samsa and it did that Shewa dinner. Takanja Jidanda Gasoda Tata Doi Kasoda Sungi Marita Yina Tangarazo Chikasoda Tebache Zonga, the Chava killing it, Yamlin chicken, the killing it, Chiba Yinza. What are the pure Latene and it the Prisa you could just the Prisa you together and it give a tamate that to you like Devatu. They were Tombake, they don't miss where you see Jesus that the Kubachavina, Yabuyore. What did it? Kajati, Chidangara to Pulam Hobina, Kona to you Dewa Yubari. They don't miss where you see Yubari, they didn't Garanzuge, and did the summer Tamayina. And it dilatene, and a talk about to say, so yeah. Talk about so yeah. And it dilatene, and because that Garazu muted, and it did pure and the ransom Jatamia Sunday Kuba you to Toy the name was at the nigger, and it took such a time you to your Kiba Yuri. What did it say? Takaja, Chinanti, Tochok, Chusette, the Ina Gazan Yaman chicken, Sanga killing a Chibaina, one Tetonus may she to Chagina, Pay up Yuri. What did it say?
And so here, the all of the offerings that we engage in, that it's important to, when we do so, to really imagine that these offerings are there to be offered, really truly there, and that we can see them for ourselves in our mind's eye, and that also for us who are on the Mahayana path, perhaps engaging in tantric practice, a very good practice too is that when offering, we are offering to, of course, the Buddhas and Tathagatas that are visualized. We see them really enjoying these offerings, developing bliss from which arises emptiness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. This is important in terms of really augmenting our collections of merit and wisdom. Very, very good kind of to engage in that, kind of like for all those engaged in this kind of practice to make the most of it in a way, isn't it? To engage in the possibilities of really intense purification on the one hand, and then a collection of positive merit on the other.
What did it? And Tanishi, the Candela. Talk is sing it, and that's I get the church that can do to get my shout to get there. And you talking you also some down to an embassy of your one lapchan or what? So we should what talking you also some down to one lapchan you could. Or that and that the Tocho Jimaiza, talking to the that the to give the Sui or Maria. What that the names are, and Marazo Yamne to get the social and it because of the children Gazette. That some look necessities and the Java channel to tell by one lap chair, what did it?
And so, again, to generate the merit field as extensively as we can, if we have the opportunity, and when making offerings like this, because of course this means a much more greater blessing. And so it's important for us to consider this as practitioners, to really make the most of our time, make the most of our opportunity here, and to kind of engage in all of these practices as intensely and as expansively as we possibly can.
The Lama Yitam Chujo Sumajan Taka, was a lovely which you are sourcing your thought you are that didn't she said to me, what I can get again, called Lapchada, question the meter, what did you what did it?
And so that when we are engaging in practices like this, in full kind of presence of the gurus, the Buddhas, the meditational deities, that and then kind of adjust our motivation accordingly, then it's going to be far more powerful.
What? Because Tandati, Toyang Bell on the general Suyo, and Zapa, the Toyang Bell on the Suyo, Mata, Namne, so, don't have for taking Namnation, what they love of the summer time. 거야 납치야 제뭐 되게 개변 되게 마누얼 레시브로 와 마누얼 레시브로 수준 냠내가 자원데
And so that this text is written, of course, very much adhering to the sutra. And but from our point of view as practitioners, we can augment, these inspirational words here to augment our practice and make it even more powerful. And as long as we're proceeding in a non-mistaken way, that we should take every opportunity to do so, to gain more benefit from whatever practice we do engage in.
다 소소 냠내 소처럼 그냥 마 대신 자도 얘는 디버를 되게 주고했어요 말이야. 다야 소소 냠내를 봐 자기는 되게 가 봐지 잖아. 지어 봐. 어디를 다 니가 지다.
And so just think, you're kind of saying, that there's no need to go into too much explanation here, but from your own side, and when you're engaging in practice, that you try to make it as comprehensive and as beneficial and as effective as you possibly can.
다니바 지다 뷰에 추네 자왈레서 남가 가서 남가 남자 감제 태도바 용수 송화매바 대다고 로이란에 투바게 예초 세다 제바 남라 레과비 연에 담바 투제 채남제 달라 제고 다제 디다시에
And so the second of these minor headings was then how to go about the offering. This is explained in the second half of verse 5 and verse 6. Everything unowned within the limitless spheres of space. Creating these things in my mind, I offer them to the supreme beings, the Buddhas, as well as their children. O compassionate ones, think kindly of me and accept these offerings of mine.
태두바나 다뷰 용수 소아메바 대다군 다지 로일랑냐서 투바 기부 담반남제 초 개와세다 제반남라 그베 안레과 뷰나 연에 담바 투제치원 보 가완남제 다다 조아쿠라 제베코네 안 다지 초바데다 셰시 제바 오서 오다데 셰시 제바 오서 오다데스
So here is saying that these countless kind of realms of countless spheres of space without end, and I offer these all of what is everything unowned, and all of this I generate in my mind as a mental offering, and I make this offering to all of the pure beings, the Buddhas, and the supreme objects of offering, the Bodhisattvas, and with respect I make this offering. And so then thinking of all these Buddhas, please with your great compassion, please think of us with love, not just me but myself and all other beings, and accept these offerings of mine, accept these offerings of mine.
what the I don't know what she says what the Kubashi what the Tasuba Tabu Masoe Zebu Jumsen yes Zawale Tadin Sona meet the tension the Cheben Ocean Dala Jamache then a Shendu Kumbe Kunjite Taji Tule Niki Tushi.
And just a reminder to make sure to really visualize all of what is being offered as it being truly existent, truly there, and make these offerings accordingly. Then the third of these mini set of headings was that the reasoning why we offer materials that are unowned. And this is verse number 7. Having no merit, I am destitute, and I have no other gifts to offer. O protectors, you who think of helping others by your power, accept these for my sake.
That's also like was a PS game never in there. And it what a tabu masota and Taji Sona Sawata Medium Onji, Wish Pombe, Jess 10chen to 2 test that what the competent chat what the do the and Konchok choba we no dala share longe rawan chen so rawan yu ge rawan chen ge dala chang ma chi be dena do shin je de la kombe kombo cho na de dala onko kombo cho nam je sa da gui ma su yan choba choban de da ji dön je le to sa da ji sa dön je le to ni ji tu xie xie sa我这吧我这
And so here saying that not having generated the karma, sufficient karma in the past, then I am bereft now and destitute. And that in terms of what is the beautiful things like gems and so on, the wealth that I could offer to the triple gem, and that and the things that are and other objects and so on, I just don't have. And so I'm pleading with those who are the supreme protectors, who are thinking of benefiting others. Please accept these offerings of all objects that are unowned by me. And for my sake, please accept them.
그래 당가제 초진의 소소라 비주 매와 이내 되는 삼다는 피해죠. 그때 지금서도 그때 되는 매버잖아요. 야 지금 단다 답이 마소야 당간에 지금 직대 감 되게 직대 감다 아니 되게가 가서 지등게 내라 심지어 지등게 내라 제일 좋아서 랑게 내게 되어줘요. 지등게 내 지등게 내게 때는 좋아해서 랑게 내게 되어줘요. 인사 아니 셰게 피해면은 디피해래 야 소소 최고 표현을 소소로 톱단주에 되는 지래. 지어봤다 지가서 소소게 레게 대화지 차대요. 맞지 좀 레알 되는 좋아해서 what 되게 다 지금 가서다 지금 초초에 제도 에네 되게 좋아 표현. 어 차대도 호텔에.
So this process of not having anything directly to offer, therefore offering that which is unknown and the unowned in the world. Now, because the reasoning here is that because of there being a connection between what is referred to as a general karma and our own karma, we have a right to be able to visualize all of what is unowned as worthy and as sufficient to offer. And so that this kind of places us in this context of being able to offer all that is unowned. And so we leave it there today.
was well takancha chige chanjuga semkom ani chige doni tobe sherakom chanjuga semkom ngenjuga semkom di komedi semje 탐제가 도 산제 고마치 토베초도 다 냠내 잡아 이나 다 쳐봐 쳐도 좀 받아 셔와 두배 쳐봤을지 로아 두배 쳐봤을지 차그래 로아 지금 말하기 노산생 쳐봐 갈메스 이네다 두배 쳐봐다 야 피고 요소에 줘봐다 너 산생 쳐봐 갈메스 다 두번 냠는 거 쳐봐더래 다 두번 냠는 거 쳐봐더나 안 체질 루지라 산제 고마 토바로 로아
So, and so that we leave it there for today, but also to recall that still our central focus of practice is to generate the mind of enlightenment, and that as well as wonderful as the making of material offerings is, and how beneficial it is, that it's still the supreme offering is the offering of one's practice, and that means the development of ethical conduct, of meditating on emptiness, renunciation, and of course the generation of the mind of enlightenment itself. And that when we make such an offering, having practiced sincerely, that is the supreme offering. And that so to keep that in mind. Also, of course, the life of Milarepa demonstrates this very clearly. As he said himself, I have absolutely nothing material to offer. And so I offer my offering of practice. And of course, in adopting that policy, he attained enlightenment in one lifetime.
다른 생각 지점에라게 칼라스인데 수연이 팬토고 말은 칼라스에는 칼라스하고 도와서 최스의 년이 팬토고 맞아 최 년바디 냠내 지고랬어. 좋아. 칼라스 수연이 조가자일 팬토고 말했어. 조가자발라 칼라스에바디 사고 그랬어. 아니 최 년바디 최 로드 제바 다가란 게 아니 제 가서도 다 가자 지금 산재 고마 토발 편에서 말해 최초받아 년바디 냠내 지고 그랬어요. 벤도 그랬어. 좋아. 로세 소베 맞아 세 사고 그래서 마산 저거 자기 말했어. 그 세상 미다잖아 저거 자요 말와. 다서 최년바디 벤도 말해. 그래서 그 년고 그러다 이내 때 가서나 문에 전에 벤도 냠내 지도 벤도스. 벤도스 왔다 되나죠. 알아주겠다. 뭐 어쨌든 남다 친주 주제 냠내 제 임바서 왔다 감독도 그 배수 제대로
And so, again, as Milarepa said, that just cooking your food is no good. It won't help the body. You have to eat it in order for it to bring that benefit. And that's just hearing the Dharma, even just listening to the Dharma itself, is not going to help you much to get to enlightenment, because you have to put it into practice. Only that will be of benefit to you. And so that's a very good advice for us to adopt in our listening to and applying of this advice coming from the Bodhisattva's way of life.
So, 다 뒤라 다 세다베티 또 투베 온보다 랑게 주고라 다 년중의 섬르스탄 디 랑게 주 빼마 담아져봐 주소 섬자자 되네 아니 지금 가서라다 되네 아니 친한 게 척근데 신바이네 유대는 좀 뒤서요 말해 좋아 유대는 좀 뒤서 유대는 좀 있나 아니 때네 중앙에 좀 재미도 때네 중앙에 임바 인사 다고 유대는 용토야 거라면도 때네 임바 인사 다 유대는 좀 뒤서면도 서는 것들은 예반이네 아니 때네 그 유대는 뭐 좀 다가라 예배 로더니 어느 가서도 님의 김과지 주소 삼사체 아니 들레 심제 탐제도 산제 고마 마도나 토마도 요가도 토바치기 삼삼로 도스콤 아니 디 랑게 주바 다웨 김과지 주소 삼사체는 파데사베 남을 뭐 다게 주바 가리시면 구소도 좀 고쳐 때 순대체는 담배 가서 니베 가서 슈 스베 가서 때두셔 산제 고마 마도 바도다 제소 소소선 또 바트려 공부도 지고 빼만 님의 다웨 되는 소소소들 고바시.
So we begin a dissolution here by first of all bringing our focus to the figure of Shakyamuni that we are visualizing in the space in front, and we begin by preparing a lotus sun and moon disk mandala seat on our own crown here, through reflecting on the notion of renunciation, considering the notion of all phenomena in cyclic existence being in the nature of suffering. Arises that notion of wanting definite emergence from that. And so the lotus of renunciation manifests. And then considering that all internal and external phenomena lack any independence, they are only dependent phenomena. They have no objective existence, but merely are imputed by thought. The notion of emptiness gives rise to the sun disk mandala seed. And then the notion of wanting to attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings gives us the moon disk mandala seed. And then we utter the verse of invocation thrice. The first, after the first recitation, the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha moves through the space. At the end of the second, arrives at our crown, and at the third is seated there until we attain the state of enlightenment. Oh, glorious and precious Root Guru, come take your lotus and moon disk placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind.
what did it what did it or it did it Chaza or the Trisha was just with Tabita charges Tabita Chanchu watch that Yala to a minute and then such a page with the relating with Sagation but Tomanam Dashla Chomash Idan Koranam Dalabani Taya me so that what did I say future and then that Tagain and again to some Salutan and then some lot Tagara and Ragini the Pamata to so the Kubasha Tenet don't you to be Shana Samusta and then they don't need to be Tony Nebel Lotagara and Nimeki was to some such a then and it's a Casora Sibatan Sanja Koba Tom de Logic Samota and the Dego Lotini and it Casode Taveki was to some Tenapa de Savella Tagichu and the Karakusu to go to Sadu so the Sude Chene and it Tambekaso Pe Nibakosu Sumaka Tensu Sanja Kumamato Chesu some such a Tenepema my industry Namjuning the Tanishin the kind of Tojaka was Sanga Chikaja Kake and then title monument mamas a title monument to bet Sanga Korasum in Korasum Kubashe and then Jamaica Sanga on Omar was an this quarter switch of Kubashe and then on Omayeta my shaman is sort of what is Kubashe? What is it?
So then we offer the 7-limbed practice, including the offering of the confession and purification of negativities and so on, and prostration, etc., and the mandala practice. And then we begin by establishing the same combination of lotus stone and moon disc mandala seeds at our own heart center, again through reflecting on renunciation, giving rise to the lotus. The small meditation on emptiness to give rise to the sun disk and the meditation on the mind of enlightenment, giving rise to the moon disk and mandala seed. And then we make the invocation verse again, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here on my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." Again, recited thrice at the end of the first. The figure of Shakyamuni Buddha moves down through our crown chakra, down through our central channel. At the end of the second, arrives at this pre-prepared seat at our heart. And at the end of the third, we have the certainty that the Buddha will remain until we again attain enlightenment. Then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a 5-pronged white vajra. And the package of lotus leaves is surrounded, encircled by first of all, in a clockwise direction, the mantra of the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. In an anti-clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri, and with the third encircling the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction.
And then you saw Lamatuba Shua Tere, Kusum Tula, we set Chovala Tere, Ragachimone, Kadiga Bola, we set Chovala Tere, that Tomame Tibachita, that Yabatu, and it just saw to a Bajawa, to Misawa Chovala Soba, the Gane Trinchamatsum Naja, that's a Lotala Sobata, Lunga is Tiba the Tiba Tamjeta. Tagani just saw the Tomata Kawa, Jajus Lava the Kawa, Sanga Gets the Kawa. Tagani Sing at the Kachu, that Donna. 제배 하나마도 랑신 하나마도 쳇딜라사마 생가마 이가마 토마면 디바드 디바탄자 뭐 장신 딱 맞춰서 삼사자 어디를 고바시.
And then the light begins to emanate from the figure within the lotus leaf package from the body, speech, and mind, and permeates through there and indeed pervades every cell of our bodies, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, and thereby purifying all the negativities and obscurations we have accumulated, including the 10 non-virtuous actions of the killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, of lying, of harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, of the malicious intent, covetousness, and of wrong view. All of the infractions of our pratimoksha vows, the downfalls related to the Bodhisattva and Tantric vows, all of that was a naturally occurring negativities that we engaged in or anything proscribed by the Buddha himself. And all of that we have engaged in this life, in the last life, in the life before that, in the lifetimes going back to beginningless time, and to see that they are all indeed purified, completely purified, and every stain of those negativities is eradicated.
당안에 생각도 최주에 개개 소소률의 나사 셈을 동네 아니 지금 다 근데 줘봐야 봐들 안 당안에 시게 중식 커만이 봐 근데 줘봐이나 근데 자롱 틸레 겨 가리 줘봐이나 당안에 생게 어떻게 돼 장시다 아니 당안에 생게 저 가소래 뭐다 지금 아니 학교도 아니 뉴도 산지에 고마 토발라다 교연치시다 탐에가 나시는 거 탐에가 나시 있게 가리면 봤다 장시 다네 다가 이제 가나탄제 다바는 저 맛이 차도가 중수스 원들의 시코바시 근데는 랑기 신도 저 미는 게 라마샤자스 고데 현지 지근처는 랑기 루이데 라마샤자스 고를 주소 랑기 신도 저 셈데 내는 게 라마샤자스 그 투데 현지 지근처는 소소스데 라마샤자스 그 투를 랑기 룽아 유소도 라마샤자스 고소 동고 예매도 주소 섬섬체 다가리 저 랑기 네베 네디가 아니 배 네기 끼안 탐제 네기 끼안 탐제 제네 라마 샤자스에게는 다 그저 답에서도 주소 써서 어디로 마셔.
Yeah, of course, all illness, all disease, and all anything that is upsetting the body, that's all purified as well, and that all of the imbalance within our four elements, or the channels, winds, and drops, is purified and rebalanced, and particularly the main issue for us in preventing us from quickly attaining the state of enlightenment, meaning this ordinary appearance, this adherence to ordinary appearances is overcome, and we begin to see things with pure appearance. These are all purified. And that then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And I can rest assured that then all my body, speech, and mind now are inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. And likewise, the place in which I find myself is purified of all fault and is transformed into an enlightened abode.
오데 다라 라마샤자스 그 고소도 뭐 예매 교와디 투갈래 아니 심쟁가 장단에 뭐 외세 초발할 때네 아니 외세 초발 때는 때레 외세 레레는 다 심제 탐자를 쇼할 때는 심제 레레는 쇼할 때는 심제 대다 탐자가 아니 루가에서 교 탐자 타는 라마샤자스 콜 조수 섬자체 네 대다 탐자 네 교 탐자다 때는 아니 라마샤자스 그 답에서 조수 섬자체 아니 때네 다 간자제 어디를 고마시 때는 다 다 야고시로 심제 탐제가 더 타지버 중긴 있었다 니마들을 좀 심제 탐제 산지가 살았고 또 생각하고 다 야고시로 중소 선적하고 안테네 이제 다 심제 탐제 산지가 살 거봤다 안데 주변에서 개와 가르사마다 안데 주변에 소소도 잡아 유대나 말도 또 파다 잡래 서 공부하시 디 대화제 대화 동바데 제도 뉴스에 이시켜서 선서 어디를 공부하시
So then, seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, I sent out countless rays of light, equal in number to all the sentient beings in all realms of existence. And with those lights then spontaneously touching all these sentient beings, they are freed of all fault, and they spontaneously arise as fully enlightened beings. Likewise, their place or abodes are purified of all faults, and they in turn are transformed into enlightened abodes. And so here, again, I can rejoice in been able to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment, but that this recognizing that all the sentient beings I'm working for, all the merit accumulated to attain that, and me as the agent engaging in this virtue, completely lack any objective existence and are merely imputed by thought. This realization brings forth bliss. It combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
Gyua shows that in Yoala, Sozuki, Champion Chanjo Tony, the Besharamaja, top level. And that's also and it Taka Netan Kandishaman and Deta Dendegi and Gula Toy Chanju, San Antonio to Beshara, Maja, Kena Kono Kondo Peg, and it changes the Gyua shows. And watch it.
And so, of course, what we have done here is acting at the level of imagination. It's not so easy, is it, to just attain the state of enlightenment on that way, but we make a very powerful, sincere dedication that it will actualize like this as quickly as possible. In order to do that, I dedicate myself to applying the motivation of the mind of enlightenment combined with the realization of emptiness in every possible situation, and to kind of like generate the causes that have been laid down to fulfill these goals, to increase them, and for the causes that have not been laid down, may they be generated freshly to increase my appreciation of and establishment of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness.
Hola, so que va de
Lai mo sang You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losangdrakpa, at your feet, I make requests.
Oh, Thank
Thank you, Gana.
Thank you, everyone.